I'm Watson Jordan. I lead the Resilience Initiative, where we research and promote resilience from around the globe and back to you. Our big idea? We can develop resilience. Our promise? We will show you how with inspirational stories and straightforward ideas. Our 5-3-1 plan helps build a foundation that supports and propels resilience in good times and in bad. I'm honored to be part of the Entrepreneurship and Leadership in COVID-19 Summit. Thank you, Marie. I will stand on my head to get you to invest in your resilience. Today, I'll review our 5-3-1 plan and then focus on virtual community as a vital and powerful component that supports resilience for leaders in 2020. Leaders and entrepreneurs are like the adult during air travel. In the event of a crisis, you must put your mask on first. Do that first before you help anyone else. Critical. We all get that. Wow, are we in a crisis? And for leaders like us, this has never been more true. People, lots of people depend on us. They do, their families do, the shops in their neighborhoods do. Lots of responsibility for leaders like us, for entrepreneurs. To care for these people and to lead with compassion and proactive energy, we must continue to invest in and fortify our resilience. The Resilience Initiative promotes and researches resilience. Our promotion includes speaking to groups and facilitation of events. These could be speaking to school groups where we would have a resilience day, where I would give a keynote speech and would spend the rest of the day facilitating groups. I've also done this with corporations and a few times during a reduction in force, where I meet with the people who are leaving the corporation to help give them tools as they go on to the next chapter in their lives. We participate in leadership summits and conferences, both virtual and in person. We write, and of course, our podcast, #Resilience, where we have been interviewing people around the world in a series where we ask the question, what can we learn from our friends in Asia and around the world who have worked with this type of virus before? What can we learn from them? It's been fascinating and remarkably fun. We have an executive writer series where these writers come in and write not about individual resilience, but about corporate resilience and the type of leadership that requires. We have a 10-10 finance series, 10-minute lessons on basic finance. This is a beginner, but it's an overlooked part of the curriculum in many parts of the world. And of course, our famous 5-3-1 plan for resilience building. Our research revolves around interviews into resilience with a specific focus into disciplines. Disciplines such as beekeeping or yoga or brewing. And again, we ask a question that we like. What can we learn from these disciplines? Not the people, but the disciplines themselves that we can take and apply as to our own resilience. What can a beehive, the life of a beehive, tell us about building our resilience, about maintaining it? In addition to this focused work, we've established a scholarship at the Asheville School. We support a village in Kenya along with our partners, Me to We. They have 5 pillars that we help them support: medicine, education, water, agriculture, and sustainable economy. It has been great working with them and super rewarding for us. We mentor inner city youth with our friend Keenan Lake in his program, My Daddy Taught Me That, right here in Asheville. And we lead mastermind groups and efforts. We've had specific success during our powerful work with Diana David Wu and her Futureproof Tribe. Just fantastic. I'm going to look in detail at our 5-3-1 plan and go over how it can help and support you during this crisis, with specific emphasis on communities. How the communities that we invest in and harvest from can support us as entrepreneurs and leaders. I look forward to working together, and I hope one day to get to know you better. It's not a complicated plan, and it revolves around the key part of resilience, which is people. Who are the people we're with, whether it's 5 people that we're with the most, the 3 communities with, and what's our core belief. So we'll start with the 5. Who are the 5 people that you're with the most? Who do you spend your time with? Are you this excited when you think about them? I hope you are. The better that 5 group, the stronger your resilience. In the workbook, the first thing we do is ask, who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with? Because Jim Rohn tells us you are about the average of those 5 people. The brighter, the smarter, the more creative, the more clever, the more charming they are, the more bright, charming, creative, and clever you will be. There's no getting around it. We are impacted by the people we surround ourselves with, and we really encourage you to make that an active choice, to seek that out, to take a look at it every once in a while, not every day, but on occasion, once or twice, 3 times a year, once a quarter maybe, to really look at where and who you're spending your time. Who are those people? The better they are, the better you'll be. I also think it's important when we look at that group to go, are they all the same person? Are they all on my bowling league? Are they all at Rotary? And if it's very similar, if it's very homogenous, to look at ways to add some variety. Ideal if there's some variety in age, if there's some variety in gender, in background. I often say the worst team in the world is a team of 5 me's. So the best team in the world would be very different. It's also easy in the world today to have maybe 1 or 2 of those people not be in your same town, but to connect with them virtually over the internet. Because wow, in the time of the coronavirus, the internet has created a new way to connect, whether it's FaceTime or Zoom, really just fantastic. So our first question, who are the 5 people? That's the 5 in the 5-3-1 plan. The 3 is 3 communities. Which 3 communities do you belong to? Do you participate in actively? You invest in? And do you harvest from? What 3 communities are those? Again, it can be anything, and it doesn't have to be exotic. But as with the 5 people, I think variety is key, and it adds some stability, kind of like diversification. If this is diversified a bit like a portfolio, then if something happens, you'll still have other communities to be involved in. An example, I belong to an online fitness group called Kenzai, which has been completely unaffected by this global pandemic. It's great. In fact, I lean on it more now than I ever have. And it's a key part of my staying resilient. I also go to a yoga studio, Hot Yoga Asheville, which I love so much. However, that has been massively interrupted. And I really miss that. I miss going to the studio. I miss seeing the people, the physicality of it. So I've had to make some adjustments, but because I had different communities, I wasn't left empty-handed. I also belong to a spiritual community, and part of that is physical, but part of that can be accomplished over the phone or with Zoom. So three communities that you belong to, and it's important as entrepreneurs and leaders that there are places we go that we're participants. Uh, we can offer service, we can add to, but we can also take from. And I think one of the things I like about, for instance, my yoga studio is I don't teach yoga. I just go and take yoga. I'm not in charge of anything. It's a refreshing break from the rest of my life where I have, like you, a great deal of responsibility. So having some variety in those three communities is key. And the one in our 5-3-1 resilience plan is what's your core belief. And there are lots of ways to think about this. It's probably easy to overthink it, but it's really worth giving some thought to. What's my core belief? In the workbook, we ask some questions, and you'll see them. I'll put that up right now. One of them, as long as fill in the blank, everything will work out. Another one, deep in my heart, I'll always know that, fill in the blank. Whenever again, fill in the blank, I always feel great. I know, fill in the blank, is true, and I depend upon it. So those three questions are really to get you started thinking. It's worth giving some thought to, and this really serves as a stake in the ground that we can depend on. I like to use the example. I think some people go, my core belief is that if my favorite sports teams win, I'm okay. Well, no one's sports teams win all the time. So that means a chunk of the time you'll be disappointed and angry. Sometimes I think that explains why there's so many angry, unhappy people, because their core belief is their sports team. A little bit funny, but maybe a little bit true. An exercise that we do, because often it's hard to think about what's my core belief, is to think about, well, who are three people that I really admire? To write that and go, well, what do I think their core belief is? To write that down and then call them and ask them and have a conversation. And I think that creates a fertile ground for imagining and thinking and kind of discovering what your core belief is. Because you're like me, you have one, it's important, and you depend upon it. So knowing that and polishing it and refining it is super helpful. So that's our 5-3-1 plan for building resilience. As we look at the impact the virus has had on our lives as entrepreneurs and leaders, I think the three communities is where the impact has been its most significant. Often, entrepreneurs and leaders work alone, they work independently, they're driven internally, but they also get great benefit from participating in communities. Those communities can be with other like-minded leaders, business leaders, people who share the same problems. They can also be belonging to a community where they're not in charge of everything and they're more of a participant, which kind of rounds out their pie chart of their life in terms of satisfaction. I know it's nice not to be in charge of everything. There are places I can go where I'm a participant. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the communities I belong to, how that's been affected or not affected by the coronavirus, and a little bit about mastermind groups, which I do work with facilitating, but think it's a great option, especially in the coronavirus time, how we can connect with each other intentionally. So the communities I belong to, the first one is Kenzai. It's an online fitness group that I started working with maybe 10 years ago. A former student of mine, Patrick Reynolds, started it, but it's a virtual community around the world that revolves around nutrition, fitness, and communities. So there's a lot of interaction, blogging, they now call it journaling, but that's been completely uninterrupted by the coronavirus. So if we think of community as the three stools, three legs of the stool, that has been a very stable one. I think it's positive if we can diversify the communities we belong in. So, three bowling leagues at the same bowling lane is not as stable as a bowling league, a church, uh, and a hiking club, for example. So, variety lets us diversify so we're less susceptible to uh, ups and downs that go through our society. So Kenzai is virtual and has been very stable through the coronavirus time. And so that has been great. However, the second leg of my stool, if you will, is my yoga studio, Hot Yoga Asheville. I love my yoga studio. It's great. And that's a place that I get to go where I'm not in charge, where I can just show up and follow instructions. And it's a great respite for my mind. And there's a real benefit of yoga, but I don't want to be a yoga teacher. I like to go to yoga and be around instructors. And it's also like-minded people, other people that want to go to yoga. So some shared traits, some commonality. And I try to bring positive energy uh, to the yoga studio, but I also take a lot. So in some communities, I would give more and take less. In some, I give less and take more. But the same way that the organizations we lead need people to work there, communities need people to go and be community members. So I think having some variety that way is good. Um, the third community is a spiritual community. And I think that's very personal for lots of people. But I think in this time, we all start the day and need to start the day in a way where we have plenty of spiritual hay in the barn, because I think it's easier, especially being confined as we are now, to run out of patience, to suddenly run out of spiritual hay, to find more ways to give people a break, to think the best of people. And sometimes I get run down. So finding ways, whether it's meditation or whatever is a match with you, but to continue investing in that and to find a way to participate with community. And I know in the States, it's strange that I think all of the churches are not open and not having services, and they're doing virtual things. So I think finding a way to do that as the third leg of our kind of community stool really serves us well. Because again, as entrepreneurs and leaders, we are responsible for a lot. Now, and we like that. We seek that out. But finding a way to recalibrate the pie chart of our life with community is a big challenge. So the thing I mentioned earlier, mastermind groups are a way to do that. It may have been that we played golf with, or went to meals with, or dinner or social occasions with peers, either within our industry or in our town, other business leaders, other entrepreneurs. And I think that's a piece that is absent now. It's much more difficult to find. So I belong to a mastermind group. We get together once a week, and it's not complicated. The basic recipe is sharing what we did the previous week. We like to identify 3 things that were priorities that we were going to do. And when we get together, the first thing we do is to report how we did on those 3. To then go, and next week, these are the 3 things I'm going to do. And sometimes you have to pick one up from the previous week. But just that little accountability keeps the light of day on all of our operations and events and projects we're working on. I have found that to be powerful. And it's something that we can initiate on our own that doesn't require us to manage it full time. So I think mastermind groups are a great leg in the stool to add in terms of community during the coronavirus time where it's much harder to get together in groups. So in review, please download my free workbook and take a look at the 5 people, the 3 communities, and the core belief. I think that's it's a foundational piece. And on the 3 communities, take a look at that. And stability comes from variety and diversification. If the people and the communities you have are diversified, it's stable, which helps us. And again, as leaders, think about a mastermind group if you need to create another community of peers. As we conclude, remember, like the airplane emergency system, we have to put our mask on first. So start today, put your mask on, and invest in your resilience. Forge new communities that support your great work. There will be a world of new opportunities. People like you will enjoy a great harvest because you will prepare the fields and sow the seeds. This time next year, where will you be? Let me tell you, you'll find new ways to succeed, to help people, to drive commerce. The world needs you. You can do it. And let me know how I can help. Want to start a new mastermind group? Listen to a podcast? Download the workbook? All you have to do to get started is to visit our website at #resilience.com. That's #resilience, that's spelled out, all one word, .com. It's all there. I can't wait to meet you and to applaud your success.